All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program. You know I'm talking about Johnny Cuba. Pick up a six-pack of Johnny Cuba. How else are you going to enjoy the Panthers' first road game of the season at the Ottawa Senators? Go to johnnycuba.us. Use the Johnny Locator. Find the nearest location to you. Make sure you always drink responsibly. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Jessica Blaylock here with us. Panthers Studio Host, Panthers reporter. Always good to see you. It means our favorite little hockey team is back in action. Now, I mentioned it earlier on the show here today. I'm looking forward to watching you tonight, to watching the local broadcast. I know that you guys broadcast the other night because ESPN didn't come down here. They did a remote. You had the green screen behind them. I watched on ESPN the other night, opening night, because my service did not have Scripps TV yet. They did not have WSFL TV 39. I got the hot tip. Wait, don't buy the package yet. You're going to have it by Thursday. And they just added it to my TV package today. So I was able to save the money. I'm good to go the rest of the way. I'm going to see you guys watching the local broadcast tonight. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm doing great. Hockey is back, baby. And boy, did the Panthers look good the other night against the Boston Bruins. So I'm pumped that it's hockey season. I'm pumped that the Panthers are trying to look to defend their first ever Stanley Cup in franchise history. So yeah, I'm doing great and I'm ready to go.
I thought it was such a cool ceremony that they did the other night. Obviously, like I get goosebumps. I almost started crying again when they're raising the banner, to the rafters. But obviously, my team has never celebrated a Stanley Cup championship. So there were little things that that I noticed, which started with, okay, as Sasha Barkov is about to come on the ice for introductions, and he's got the cup. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've never seen this because my team has never won the cup, but it's such a cool little thing where the team, he brings the cup onto the ice, he puts it on the table there, and then they raise the banner. He's giving the cup back. The cup is no longer theirs. They have to give it back. You can't touch it again now until you win it again. And I thought it's such a cool little ceremonial, start to the season where here, this cup no longer belongs to us.
Well, and I think it's so symbolic of finally saying goodbye to last season and everything that they accomplished and knowing that this is a brand new season and the quest for the cup starts all over again, right? And that's one of the things that so many players talked about coming into training camp was how they weren't going to rest on their laurels, that they finally won the cup. It actually made them even more hungry going into this season to want to win the cup again. And, for knowing how short their offseason was because they did play 7 games in the Stanley Cup final, to know how quick that turnaround was, it would be easy to say, okay, well, we didn't have a full offseason. We're picking up almost right after we left off. No guys are just sitting back and resting on what they did last season. There's almost an additional ownership by these players of coming into this year and knowing it's a new year. It's a new look team to a certain degree. And it starts all over. So I thought it was the perfect way to, between the ring distribution, between bringing the cup out to the ice one final time, hoisting the Stanley Cup banner in the rafters. But then you know what? Here we go on the 2024-25 season. And these guys know they haven't achieved anything yet this year. And so I thought it was almost like full circle, the celebration coming to an end and kicking off a brand new quest for the cup.
My son, when we're watching the game the other night and, he notices, like, for instance, we have an entirely new fourth line, and we have essentially, I know Uvis Balinska's got some time last year, but we have a new third defensive pairing. And it's like, oh, we lost guys. That stinks. And I said to him, listen, number one, you're always going to lose guys, all right? Especially when you're a championship team. Teams are going to overpay for guys. They want to have championship guys on their team. But also, if you're trying to repeat as champion, you need to have new faces in the dressing room, in the locker room, in the clubhouse. You have to have guys who haven't done it before so that they have that hunger. So they do bring that energy of wanting to win for the first time. It's great that it's only a new fourth line where they're bringing back their top 8 guys and you add Sam Miskevich there on the third line. It's great that your top 9 guys are back, but I really do believe you need to have new faces after winning a championship.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think one of the things that's been incredible to see over the past couple of seasons, especially with Bill Zito at the helm, is how he goes and he finds these guys who are maybe being underutilized on their current team, or maybe just need a fresh start, or are looking to revamp their careers. For a perfect example, Oliver Ekman-Larsson last season. Yeah. And
they'll find a new Oliver Ekman-Larsson this year.
Right. These guys come into Florida, which has now become a destination for hockey, and for where players want to go. And they fit in seamlessly because of this incredible culture that the Florida Panthers have established over the last several years. And so you look at your top 2 forward lines and it's all familiar faces, right? It's the Barkovs and the Reinhardts and the Verhaeghes and the Bennetts and Kachucks and so on. And then you look at, your fourth line, and yes, Jonah Gadjevich was obviously with the team last year. He was one of those guys that slotted in on that fourth line, alongside a Ryan Lomberg or a Nick Cousins. So you do have a little bit of familiarity with what Gadjevich can bring to the ice and that physicality. But you look at your fourth line and what its purpose is, and it really is a line that is meant to bring energy shifts.
They had a great opening night.
They had an awesome. I thought the fourth line was fantastic. And that was one of the things that really stood out the other night about what the Panthers were able to do. Is it was depth scoring, right? Luostarinen, Gadjevich, the third and fourth line making a huge impact. And I think that's one of the things that was really, really encouraging to see. You know what you're going to get from the Barkov and the Bennett line, right? I think that third line with Lundell, Luostarinen, and Mackie Samoskevich could be a huge difference maker for the Panthers this year. And then just to see the fourth line contributions, the more you can get from that third and fourth line, the more pressure you can take off of those top 2 lines, and the less you have to play a Barkov and a Reinhardt, especially considering what they do not only at even strength, but special teams as well. So I was really encouraged to see how the Panthers came out flying, how they truly wanted to make a statement in that.
And they looked like the best team in the league. They did.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I mean, especially when you're facing Boston and you know what you have done to Boston in the playoffs over the last couple seasons. Yep. And you knew how determined the Bruins were going to be to want to beat you and try and dominate that game themselves. And I mean, it was pretty much all Florida Panthers.
So are we getting right after it tonight? I woke up this morning. I said to my younger son, Jordan, he's 12. He loves the Panthers with me. And I said, hey, tonight, Panthers, Ottawa. And he goes, oh, we're gonna beat them up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Panthers and Ottawa, they always fight. There's always the big brawls. And it's an interesting dynamic to me tonight because, yes, Florida and Ottawa, there's always big brawls. But if we remember Game 7 last year, and Brady Tkachuk is obviously there with the rest of the family watching Matthew, Brady was crying. I mean, he's crying as the Panthers won. He was so happy for his brother. It's such an interesting dynamic now where, Brady's one of the guys. Now, he doesn't fight with Matthew. They promised their mother they'll never fight each other. But Brady's one of the guys that he's the captain. He mixes it up with the Panthers. So tonight's a very interesting dynamic again.
Yeah, I remember last season, the Panthers-Senators game was where we got one of the greatest lines ever from an official. Every player on the ice has been assessed a game misconduct or whatever it was, in addition to other various penalties. And there were like 6 players left on each bench. And because everybody, it just was like the most crazy penalty-laden game of all time. And it's a product of what we see when the Senators and the Panthers play, because it always gets chippy, it always gets physical. And from the Ottawa Senators perspective, I think they expected to take a major step forward last season and be a playoff team, and they were not. And so I think for the Sens, they have a lot of expectations on them this year and a lot that they feel they have to prove. And then, sprinkle in how contentious these games seem to always get between Ottawa and Florida.
Nick Cousins is with Ottawa now, right?
Yes, he is. He is. And actually, I saw this morning on some of the media availability that Cousins actually went out to dinner last night with several Panther players, and he was also given his Stanley Cup championship ring. So, that's the other thing. We're going to see some familiar faces. I was watching the Maple Leafs game last night, and Anthony Stolarz is in net, and Steven Lawrence signed a deal with them. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson is...
I'm watching Seattle the other night before the Panther game on ESPN. You got Brandon Montour there,
Yeah. So, and like the first time we played Calgary and we see Ryan Lomberg in a Flames uniform, and we still see Huberdeau in a Flames uniform. We're going to see all of these players that you still have these emotional connections to all around the league. But when it comes specifically to the Senators and the Panthers, it's always such a fun matchup. There's always fights. There's always physicality. But yeah, the one rule in the Tkachuk household, Brady and Matthew were not allowed to fight. But those two guys, they have a different skill set, but they're similar in the sense that they always know how to get under the skin of the opponent. And so I would fully expect to see that tonight from both Matthew and Brady, just not against each other.
Tonight will be interesting with Cousins and watching him be an agitator against us, which he's going to try and do, and he's going to try and prove a point. He didn't play a ton in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and now, of course, he's with a different team, so he's going to try and prove a little something tonight. And that's going to be interesting how I feel about watching that, because, I remember last year when Radko Gudas and Anaheim, when they were playing the Ducks, and I felt bad that Gudas was not with us anymore. And I was actually okay. If he wanted to punch one of our guys, I was okay with it. I wasn't going to be mad. I get it. And I miss you very much. I wonder how that's going to look tonight when Nick Cousins inevitably mixes it up.
Yeah, but I think in any sport, right? We always talk to guys, whether it's hockey, whether it's baseball, whatever it may be, when they face off against their former team. And if you'll remember earlier this season for the Marlins, one of the great moments was when Jake Berger hit a 3-run walk-off home run against the Chicago White Sox. And, you talk to these guys, and of course there are connections with former teammates, and there's an emotional connection if it's maybe the team that drafted them or where they started their career or whatever it may be. But every single guy says the same thing. As soon as we take the field, as soon as we take the ice, there are no friends on the other side. So we've even seen, I think it was a game maybe last year, I feel like we saw Huberdeau and Ekblad get a little physical with each other. Or
Yes.
And those players were so close when they were here together. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do see Cousins get into it with whoever, but it's not anything personal. It's just, what team you're playing for now. You have a job to do. And as much as you may love a guy on the opposing team, it's not your responsibility to be friends when you're out on the ice. So, it's your responsibility to do whatever you can to try and win a game. So as much as these guys love each other, especially considering they won a cup together, I don't think you're going to see anyone doing anybody any favors once the puck drops.
What do I need to know tonight, Jess? Script Sports, new carrier for Panthers games, WSFL TV 39. I could tell you, if you don't have WSFL on your channel lineup, it just was added to mine today. But I think Xfinity doesn't have it yet. If you don't have it, you could download the Panthers Plus app. I think it's $69.99. You get all the games the entire season. I know, folks, you don't want to do that, but I was ready to do that. I was going to do it today but then it popped up on my cable, on my carrier. So that's how you could watch the game, or over the air. You go and get the rabbit ears, from the store, over the air television. You can watch for free. But what time are you on tonight? Who are you with? What's the deal?
So it will be Ed Jovanovski and I in the studio. Our pregame show starts at 6:30, puck drop at 7 from Ottawa, and that will be Steve Goldstein, Randy Moeller, and Katie Engelson. So the same old crew that you are used to seeing for every game. And yes, check your local listings, especially because channels vary from county to county. But the cool thing is the broadcast is very, very accessible, especially on a local level this season. But we will get things going tonight at 6:30 for our pregame show.
Great job, Jess. Good catching up with you. I'm looking forward to tonight. I love it so much that they're back. It's so great.
How awesome is it that we're talking Panthers hockey?
It's great. It's really great. Have fun tonight. Thanks, Jess.